Hey, what's going on, everybody? On today's show, all the crazy latest AI news from the last 7 days. We got Perplexity dropping desktop apps. We have OpenAI is doing all sorts of things for developers that are moving towards agents. 11 Labs is slashing prices, and a whole lot more going on. So that's what we do today. Is Wednesday, which means we take a moment here to talk about all our favorite AI news stories. We don't know what each other is bringing to the table, so we're always learning along with you. So thanks to everybody that's in our chat already and saying hi, hello, hi, everybody in the chat. This is the Daily AI Show. Today is March 12th, 2025. And with me to talk about all the news is Jumi, Beth, Andy, and I'm Brian. So welcome, guys. How's your Wednesday?
It's good. So far, I've had half a cup of coffee so far, and the caffeine is flowing through the vein.
We should always
I feel
we
like
should
I'm
always let people know too that like Beth and I are East Coast, so it's already 10 a.m. for us, but Jimmy and Andy are West Coast, and so it's 7 a.m. when they're doing this show. And I know we have people joining with us from around the world, but it definitely changes things when you don't have just a little bit of time to wake up and get going for the day. So. All right. I don't know, Jimmy, what do you got as far as news stories? In fact, if you would, Jimmy, let's
yeah.
let's switch it up this week. Instead of going with like the top news story, which is what we typically do, I would personally love for you to start with you always have really interesting ones, like science ones. I'm putting you on the spot here because I don't know if you're prepared or not, but I would love for you to start with some of the more interesting ones. We will definitely get to the top news stories, the big open AI. There's always something going on. But what's something that intrigued you this week that I bet you the rest of us don't know about?
Okay. So I'll start off with an AI in science because that's like one of my favorite things. Researchers at UC San Francisco have enabled a man who is paralyzed to control a robotic arm through a device that relays signals from his brain to a computer. So we have seen instances of this in various forms. There was the Neuralink that got a bunch of buzz sometime last year, and they're going back and forth on that tech. But what's nice is to see another organization doing their own take on it and adding to the collective BCI environment, right? So BCI or brain computer interface isn't the concept isn't new, but the implementation to how well it works is new. That's where we're moving from, science fiction to science reality. This will be a huge advancement in how people can be enabled through various technologies and things like that, and can really open up quality of life for people. And of course, those of us who really like science fiction stories can imagine those stories that we've heard from the past, where we can go beyond our human limitations and things like that. So that's what I'll open it up. I got more. Let me know if you want more AI and science. I got a couple in the barrel ready to go. Am I good?
I
You
guess we'll,
continue?
we'll we'll spread it out a little bit and come back to it, but sure. But by the way, you're getting love in the comments. People talking about how they love the science stories. Joel saying he loves the science stories, and we do too. Like that's why I said that's what's fun about this show. I said it just at the top here. By the way, Carl has joined us as well. Welcome, Carl. But that's the fun of it, right? Because there's so much AI news going out there. There's the heavy hitters that we all see. It's kind of hard. They're kind of hard to miss. And we always want to talk about this too, but there's just so much going on out there and we all have our unique interests. So that's what's super fun about this show is that we're all learning along with everybody else. Who's up next? Who's got something they're just dying to share? It could be one of the big topics. We don't have to stick with the outskirts, but who wants to share the next thing?
Okay, I will.
You're up.
But it's a weave off of science. It does have a relationship to science. So, there's a lot going on in the world of AI. It's difficult to keep up with it all. One of the angles you can take to try to understand, where it's going is where's the money going? What are the investors investing in? At the highest level, there's this huge competition between China's startups and US based startups, and to lesser degree, but importantly, the EU startups that are working in the world of AI. And there's enormous capital being funneled into these companies at accelerating rates, right? It used to be when a startup had a great idea, it would do a seed investment that could be in the range of 5 million, maybe a 10 million seed investment just to get them going off the ground. Well, I want to talk about a $200 million seed that was backed by one of the most important venture capital firms out there, General Catalyst, and it's called Lila Sciences. I'm not sure how to pronounce because it's just coming out of stealth in effect, right? It's getting its seed round now. It probably had some, angel investors behind it, and it is a Lila Sciences uh, autonomous science platform. It's going to create agents, multi-agent platform system for autonomous development of science in life sciences, chemical sciences, and material sciences. They're calling them autonomous labs. Now, amazing amount of money to start out without any proof. But what we're seeing in the bigger market space is that companies like Manus, which will be one of the companies we talk about today because it's one of the top news stories, has achieved an amazing scaling breakthrough in effect in the trajectory of achieving agents by combining the capabilities of existing platforms, but doing it in a very clever way to blow past the existing benchmarks. So we expect that the same thing is happening behind the scenes in science rather than in where most of the money has been going so far since coding, like reasoning coding agents. Hey, build me a website. Hey, build me this little demonstration platform or a game. That's the way that these most advanced agents are being shown off. But now we have the evidence that the same kind of investment is going to go into life sciences and material sciences. And that's pretty exciting for the world of science generally.
Yeah, I like how you started that off too by talking about like follow the money, and where that's going to give you an idea of where we're going to see future advancements and stuff. So that's really really cool. I know I have one that just it's kind of an easy one, but we talk about Perplexity a lot, and they just announced that they now have a Windows app. So I have a Windows computer, so I downloaded it this morning. It's exactly what you think it is. I'm looking at it right now. I don't see anything on there that I can see that's much different. I mean, obviously, I love that I'm able to quickly drop between pro, reasoning, deep research, auto. Something people might recognize on there if you use Perplexity all the time is that um, they did have O1 Mini, I think, on there. And then they also had DeepSeek on there. And those have both been removed, but that didn't just happen yesterday, not with this release. That actually happened maybe a week or so ago. I just noticed they disappeared because they have their own deep research. And frankly, it's better. So you should use their deep research. So they're pushing you to use their models. So just how quickly things move, right? We were seeing DeepSeek showed up on Perplexity and disappeared on Perplexity as a drop-down model within a month, probably within like 30 days, maybe just slightly longer than that. Beth is saying no. You're saying no, I'm wrong to that? Maybe? You're on mute.
DeepSeek, for me, DeepSeek is still available. It's just available it's not under the regular models, it's under the reasoning thing, and then you can choose our one.
Okay. It's not on my I'm looking
But
at it
I'm
right now and it's not on my drop downs, which is where I was talking about. But okay, you probably can pick it back up in the settings, I guess is what you're saying, right? If you want to use DeepSeek as your model.
not as your default model. It has to be, you have to choose the reasoning thing. But sorry, I was just reacting on
No, no, that's
for
okay. I thought you
raising my
snake your head. I was like, maybe I'm wrong about that. So in the what? Okay, so just to be super clear, in the Ask Anything bar, right in this dead center in the middle of the screen, because you're right, Beth. There are settings and there's other models that you can click and move through, or whatever. I was simply talking about the drop down of the bar, but I'm glad you kind of shook your head there because just for clarification there. What I see in the desktop is I have auto pro reasoning and research for the type of research that I want to do. Auto would be your default. Pro is a couple more citations. Deep research is exact what it sounds like. And then reasoning is advanced problem solving, which I don't use as much. And then for your models right now, I have Sonar, amazing, GPT, and of course, Sonar Pro is on the other drop down. So just under Pro, I can use 4.5, 4.0, 3.7 Sonnet, Gemini 2.0, Flash, and Grok 2, all as my drop downs on there. So you have a world of choices there. I think that's one of my favorite things is that you can quickly move between models and test. I've been doing a lot more lately on the API side of things. I've said it before, Sonar, Sonar Pro, the deep research, they're all really, really good. I'm looking forward to testing them against what we actually heard from announcements from OpenAI yesterday. And I will be honest, I'm gonna punt this to you guys in your discussion about what they release as far as the developer. I've read through it, but I don't feel like I've really ingested it. I've just been super busy. So this is sort of a pivot over to that discussion because OpenAI did make some developer announcements talking about what you can now do with some new improvements through their API, including web search, including deep research, and some other things. But let me kick it back over to you guys. And I don't know, Carl or Beth or whoever read more about this yesterday, it feels like they can summarize it for our audience because I really honestly don't feel like I'm spun up enough to do that.
I'm gonna let Carl do that, but in terms of, yeah, no, I'm gonna let you do that, Carl. But in terms of the Perplexity dropdown, if you go to reasoning, like you were saying, you have another dropdown next to it that has both Mini R1 and Claude 7 Sonnet. They've just moved. They rearranged the furniture like every
You're
week.
absolutely right.
Like,
Yep, you're right. Forget what I said. Beth has it right. It's the same way on the desktop as well. When you click the left drop down, it affects the right drop down on there. So yeah, thank you, Beth.
absolutely. Carl, take us to developers.
Yeah, so I know our dev team is very, very excited about some of these things. Mind you, they've been building off um, in other places, but they're excited to try. There's especially the new responsive API or responses API. So kind of it can so it's like a combination of like in the API itself, you can get the chat completions API and the tool use capability of the assistance API. And essentially you can use it now both. Sorry, kind of got geeky there, but like, yeah, you can combine both. And essentially the whole point is that they want you to build the quote unquote agents to so you can perform multiple tasks with multiple tools using a single API rather than have multiple APIs, which was a pain in the ass when we're starting to build some prototypes because you had to use one and another to get the right tools. So that and some of this stuff is already in like LangChain and LangGraph have these capabilities. So that's where most people all like end up going or um you could also run it through, like, the Claude and Anthropic's consoles too, but, like, here, you can definitely now AI has it, and especially on the web search side, the file search, and then I think the computer use, similar to Operator, you can add it. It like, it sounds cool with the computer use, but because of how slow and it's again, still in research beta, it's, like, not really useful
Mhm.
unless it's for personal use, like, you have fun with it. So, like, yes, I can build a custom someone actually built something custom with the computer use ability, but you could see it. It is super, super slow, like, trying to get through one to the other, and it's the same examples, right? It's like trying to find you inputting your specific things that you want out of buying a house and it would go find those houses for you. It's like,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is the web search and the file search, which I haven't tried yet. And our devs really want to go see how good the web search component is.
Yeah, me too.
And then the file search, kind of similar to what already is in existence in the in the assistance API, well, the vector search that now, I do like how OpenAI sets up their vector database, a little bit better than Pinecone, just for certain things. Now, I'm more of a Supabase user,
Mhm.
but it's not bad. So I kind of like that. And eventually I think the hope is that this responses I don't know if any of you use the assistance API, so it's very, very similar to a custom GPT, but you have a lot more flexibility with it. You can put it externally. It has its own vector store. Like there's a lot more, and it's actually not that difficult to build using in the playground. But then you also have to skin it with its front end UI and stuff like that, right?
And didn't you also need it for, you didn't previously have it for web search, right? That was always
Yeah, that was a pain. So now you do. Yeah, you do. So which it opens up even more ability for that assistance API, which eventually should be replaced by the responses API once they get everything kind of connected. I think the other thing that they were talking about is um, leveraging the swarm agents that they open sourced last year, and they want to be able to that manage like complex. I haven't seen anyone build like really complex things with Swarm, so that's something we can take a look at. So those are the kind of the key components of the API without going too technical into it, but it's definitely worth. I think the overall take is that with those new tools and the push that OpenAI is doing with agents too, from a dev side, you can kind of see where all the companies are now looking, like where like 2025 is I guess the year of the agents. And I think I saw a news somewhere that the Manus they'll open source it, I think in May or I don't know, mid of the year, maybe earlier, so people can build with that Manus agent capability, which I think perfectly goes into, you can segue into whoever wants to take that.
Yeah, that was a from the weekend to today, that whole story is pivoted quite a bit. I don't know that I'm the most up to date on it. What I heard was like people were, came out of China, people were blown away by it, and within like 48 hours, people were basically saying, "Oh, this is a Claude wrapper on Claude 3.7," and that they had maybe done some interesting things, but essentially they were leaning heavily on Claude for what it was capable of. Beyond that,
Well, let me,
what do
we
you
can
got?
elaborate. I can elaborate for you on that. So the Manus yes, Manus made a big splash this weekend. And what their promise is that unlike other so-called agents, this one is combining reasoning with execution across a wide range of things using tools like or similar to tools they built and assembled together that are like operator in their ability to go out and operate on them. Okay. So Manus is divided into two different combinations of capabilities. One is the planner side, and the other is the executor side of that system. It's a system. uh, it's I think too de minimis to call it a wrapper of Claude 3.7 because in fact it appears that it's actually using Claude 3.5 Sonnet as the executor right now. Of course, they'll upgrade to Claude 3.7 eventually, but they built it around 3.5 because 3.7 just came out very recently. So the planner is using Qwen models. So that's the Chinese Alibaba Qwen line of models. And it uses that part of the planner to do the strategic reasoning and task decomposition. So an agent has to say, oh, this is what you want me to do. I've got to break that down into multiple tasks. So a Qwen, an Alibaba model, does that part of it. And then it gives it over to the Claude model that it has at its behest. It has 29 dedicated subagents that they've built that can operate out there in the world. So it's demonstrating remarkable capabilities by integrating this kind of codec execution, web browsing, multi-file code management, all of that. And it's been focused on things that are related to coding. And so it's blowing past the benchmarks for those. but just by assembling a bunch of different models and capabilities, not by doing billions and billions of dollars of new training to try to scale LLMs. So that's why it's really, really exciting. It's basically capable of doing multi-step tasks. It's really, really impressive scores against even, like, for example, when you compare it to OpenAI's deep research, considered to be one of the most capable of the thinking, reasoning, acting research agents out there. It blows away by 10 points on the scale. So it's really, really exciting. By the way, Anthropic is benefiting from the fact that they were the model used for the execution, and they just raised a ton of money. Um, and by the way, Google owns apparently 14% stake in Anthropic, and they plan to invest another 750 million into Anthropic later this year. But their annualized revenue jumped from 1 billion a year to 1.4 billion, largely on the strength of the use of Manus now in the last few days. So their run rate went way up, 50% increase, 40% increase in run rate, just because Manus used Claude. So on the coding and developer agent side, Anthropic is one of the big beneficiaries of this big splash that's been made by the Chinese company. I think it's called, I forget what the name of the actual company is, but Monica. Monica is the name of the Chinese company that delivered Manus on the weekend. Okay, I talked too long.
Okay.
I also wanted to jump in really quick and comment.
Go,
Sorry.
give me. You got a delay. Go.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to jump in really quick and comment on all of the dismissiveness of, oh, it's just a Claude wrapper. This is what we want. We want to see this thing. Now, I didn't, scour through all of their releases and say if they claimed that they created a whole new AI model, but I don't think so. I think what they created was an AI tool. That's what they're trying to sell there. But this is a great example of this is why foundational AI models exist. You use them to be the engine of your larger application or the larger service, and that's the whole thing. So when you just say, "Oh, it's just a Claude wrapper," well, I disagree with dismissing the usefulness and the example that Manus gave us over the weekend. Plus, I also found it interesting that OpenAI did a sudden tools launch just a few days after there was a service that showed what you could do and build your own AI agent tool if you had these capabilities. And so now you could probably replicate a bunch of the things that we see in Manus by using the new OpenAI tools.
This feels like so I don't know if people remember that like there were decorative flags for a while that everybody hung off the front of their house, and there were flags for all of the things, all the holidays, all of the seasons, some sort of thing. It feels again, I said it about his stepmother the last time we talked about it, but it feels again like companies are just like holding back. And then the first person who releases a new flag, right? So now we have an agent model. Everybody's like, I got a new flag too, right? I've just been waiting for somebody to signal that this is the time that we're doing that now. And the OpenAI story does seem fairly directly related to the excitement about Manus. The other thing that's kind of interesting about this is that it is it is mostly hype. Like, it's deserved hype. People seem to be excited about it, but it's still by invitation only. The majority of people who are spreading the stories of Manus are not actually using Manus. They're spreading the story of other people who were able to get in that first invitation.
Yeah, it's a good point. I know Carl and Andy. I think you guys were both going to say something. I would love it if somebody would, if we can, help connect the dots for our audience and me. Because when I heard about Manus and they talked about a Claude wrapper, and I hear you, Jimmy, I think that's fair to not dismiss it in that way. But I immediately thought of Model Context Protocol, which MCP, which we talked about on a whole show and with Anthropic. And that was Anthropic's basically push to standardize the way that developers to build secure like two-way connections with the data. And so when I saw this, I said, "Oh, are these related or no, they're not related?" Manus did something different where I think the way you were explaining to Andy, um, they use certain models to orchestrate, but then they went to other tools. But isn't that also what Anthropic has said? Hey, this is what we're ultimately trying. This is what we're trying to be about. This is like we're trying to create this MCP, or we did create this MCP, and we want this to be this new standard to really lower the barrier for people to do just this. Or are they, to your guys' knowledge, are these completely separate things?
No, I think they're very closely related. Anthropic's model context protocol is the standard, the putative standard for how AI models will interact with tools out there. So now think about Manus. It's using Claude, Anthropic, right? And it has 29 agents down below it. Each of them has a specialization. Maybe one of them is web search, for example. And I'm going to guess that MCP is the architecture that they use to connect to those.
That's what I was wondering.
Right?
So, just tiny
Go ahead, Beth.
tiny point of clarification. MCP is an open source protocol that Anthropic used and made it a household reference for the AI nerds among us. But Anthropic just used it and was very clever in doing it. But it is not Anthropic's protocol per se.
Yeah,
Well,
I gotta check that because Manus, it's like one is focusing the integrations between models and data sources, while Manus itself executes autonomously, like across a multi-agent architecture. So unless you know exactly what Manus does, how it does that, I'm not quite sure. And until actually we get our hands on it to actually use it, I don't know if it's very similar to what MCP is looking to do. And if you actually have used MCP, it's not that good. Like it's good, but like it's to me when like let's say you connect your Claude desktop to a bunch of whichever uh I guess servers that you want to connect it to, the retrieval is okay. It's not like 100% accurate and sometimes it gets it wrong. So think about it like operator where it's kind of thinking, "Hey, what are you asking?" And I'm gonna go get it. Maybe or I made a mistake and gonna get it again. It's kind of like that. So it's like it's until we
I
know.
want to check. I want to check that example a little bit. I don't believe MCP has any logic built into it at all. You don't
No, but
put logic.
seen it though.
Just
It-
it's just establishing an API integration with the external tool. That's
yeah,
what the standard is. That is open source, yes, but Anthropic is probably the leading exploiter of the MCP, standard. But many others are adopting it as a way of mounting so-called MCP servers, which is this little intermediary that provides for authentication and interaction with an external server.
but what I'm saying is it doesn't operate like it doesn't operate fluid. It's not very smooth.
So
Like
it's not as
especially
fast as you want it to be.
no.
You've got a latency problem when you've tried it. I haven't heard about that yet, but that's
And I've
possible.
got an accuracy problem as well. So that's the issue that and maybe I've mounted it incorrectly, but I think it's pretty straightforward. But that's
Be
one.
simple.
But then Manus itself, it's like I do think it's a lot of hype too, because again, don't until you actually see it. But I have to actually look at all the people who have said it's the most amazing thing. But then you look at all the people, it's like, well, it times out. Sometimes it doesn't complete the task. It's like, okay, so is it sort of like operator where it's okay?
I think I agree that if we were able today to try Manus, we would see that it behaves like many other orchestrating agents and that makes mistakes and blows things up, and you have to coax it through the process. So that's where it is right now. But the architecture that they've chosen, I think, is the news.
Yeah.
Next has done something without building a whole new model. They had put together a model that, in its entirety, is doing things far better than the best of the proprietary models. And I'm saying that around one specific thing, which is the deep research model of collecting information based on a natural language prompt.
And that goes back to what Jimmy said about, like, isn't this ultimately what we want? Haven't we been talking about mixture of experts? Haven't we been talking about there probably won't be one AGI LLM, if you will, that rules them all? It'll be many, many highly specialized agents that do very good at what they do. And maybe there's this overarching architecture, like Manus is sort of saying they have, that that will be able to orchestrate them very, very fast with low latency, with very, very accurate results. And again, yeah, Jimmy, exactly. That is kind of what we want. I want to take a quick pause here and promote our next 2 days worth of shows for a good reason. Number one, you just heard Carl and Andy both talk about how, like, we haven't had, or Beth was saying it too. No, Beth was saying it too, like the hype. We haven't had hands on Manus. So the reason I bring that up is to just talk about Friday's show, but I'll talk about tomorrow's too. But Friday's show is a show that we've been calling internally. It'll have a different name probably, but it's called the Be About It show. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because we see the hype a lot in the AI space. We talk about the hype. We're the ones that are circulating. We're part of that. And on Friday, what we're going to be doing, if you're interested, come back and hang out with us, is we're going to be showing actual working examples of how we're using AI, both professionally, personally, and in other areas of our life. Because what we want to do, it comes off of a YouTube. We'll talk about it more on Friday. It's inspired from a LinkedIn video that we'll share, a LinkedIn post from somebody. But we want to show exact examples of these AI models and how we're using them ourselves to get better results, save time, save money, these kind of things. Because there's always going to be another Manus story, whatever it is next week, and it's going to be a lot of hype, and then people are going to put their hands on it, and sometimes it reaches those expectations, and oftentimes it misses because of the hype cycle and stuff like that. So wanted to bring that up. That's Friday's show, not tomorrow. But while we're talking about it really quick in this quick pause, let me talk about tomorrow, because tomorrow two things are going on. Number one, our topics is our AI agents, the ultimate threat to SaaS. That's going to be a super fun conversation. And another great reason for you guys to come back is we have our very first guest co-host coming in. Very excited. Won't announce until she's here tomorrow, but it's something we've been looking to do for a while. And so basically, from time to time, not every day, but from time to time, we will be inviting a guest co-host, people that we know from our industry and people that we respect, that we feel can add more to the conversation. So we have our very first one tomorrow, and we're really excited for that. So just wanted to tell you about what's coming up the rest of this week. Obviously, don't forget, you can go to thedailyishow.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there that comes out on Sundays. Likes and subscribes and all the good stuff help us as well. Okay, back to the news. But I wanted to do that before I forgot, because I usually do it at the end of the show, and that's better to be in the middle. So, I know we're maybe pivoting here a little bit. One small one, and then we can move on, is 11 Labs said like 2 days ago, the world's most accurate speech to text is now 45% cheaper at scale and free via the UI until April 9th. That's actually really, really cool. Scribe, which is what they call it, our industry leading speech to text model, delivers unmatched accuracy across 99 languages. I had a chance to use that quite a bit when we were doing our voice agent thing, and I built one and so on and so forth. And so I use Scribe quite a bit inside 11 Labs. And so, 45% cheaper is a really, really big deal. Again, though, is this a well-timed announcement on the back of Sesame and on the back of Hume and others like it, where 11 Labs has to keep out front? And so one of the ways to do that, now maybe they were going to announce this anyway, but it does seem well timed, because there's been a lot of hype about other AI. We were just talking about them yesterday, AI voice agents and whatever, like Sesame. And so now you have this 11 Labs announcement. So just that's all there is to share on it, is that it's a lot cheaper, but even better than that, it's free till April 9th, which I highly recommend going in and logging in with a 11 Labs account and go play with it. It's really, really good. It's really good.
So I have a reminder and a correction coming from chat. Jen would like us to know that the fan show, the 400th show, was the first guest on our show, the first guest host. So Anne will be
I'm going to make a clarity on that. Yes, Jen and I thought about that as I was saying. You were guests on the show. This is our first guest co-host on the show.
yeah.
So all of our fans were our first guests on the show. That is correct. Always will be the case on the 400th episode. Thank you, Jen. But this is our first guest co-host of the show.
Right. There we
There you go.
go.
All right. So
And AI voices, we're actually going to be talking about the sci-fi side of that. That's Friday's sci-fi AI show, all about the disembodied voices that occupy our spaces, both in fiction and reality.
is that 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern as usual?
It is. Thank you for asking.
Got it right this week. So yeah, definitely come and hang out with that. That we put those in the newsletter as well to make sure people are really learning and going giving some love. By the way, that's a different YouTube channel. So there's the Daily AI Show. This is a side project. I don't know what you want to call it. It's something that Jimmy and Beth, I feel like, and I think Andy, I saw you on the feed as well in the discussion, that you guys have been wanting to do for a really long time. And so now you guys have put out technically two within the last 2 weeks. And it sounds like this Friday will be the third in 3 weeks. So certainly ramping up the episodes there. So go give that a love. And real quick, Beth, what is the YouTube website that they can go subscribe to?
It is the sci-fi AI show. So just like our YouTube is the Daily AI show, YouTube dot at whatever dot slash all those things. The sci-fi AI show is the channel.
Type in the Sci-Fi AI show and it should come up for you on there. And if you see Jimmy and Beth and Andy's lovely faces, you found the right channel. Give it a like and subscribe. That will go a really long way to helping them grow that show as well. All right, who else has got more news? I know, Jimmy, let's maybe circle back to you. You said you had another science one, and we'll kind of go around the horn again if anybody else has stuff.
All right. Yes, another AI and science story. I don't know why I turned on radio announcer voice, but okay. So, coming in from the Max Planck Institute for Intelligent Systems, artificial muscles for tremor suppression. And as a side note, this is coming in from Science Daily. They are fantastic about keeping the pulse of science. But essentially, what they've developed is a sort of exoskeleton of artificial muscle that surrounds and helps support tremors that people are experiencing. So, such as like someone who has Parkinson's, right? So, what's difficult for them is to control those tremors or spasms that are happening. But this technology uses essentially a band of muscle, artificial muscle, to help support and then control those spasms, and getting back to the nominal level. Now, while this is going to be great for helping enhance the lives of those who have these issues with their muscles and things like that, it will also be insights into how we can create the technology for advanced exoskeletons, musculature. This may be even an insight into the more android-like robots that we're seeing, like Clone, which uses their own musculature system and things like that. So it's one more step to get us closer to those sci-fi realities. Can you imagine if you could have actual muscle replacement based on this technology? You can enhance your own output if you have issues like there's a certain point in our lives where we can no longer lift 80 pounds, you know. Also, how about rehabilitation and things like that to rebuild, you know? And will this expand upon just the natural, or I shouldn't say natural, but the the field of exercise and health consciousness in helping you get to a point where you can take it on your own or go further. So a lot of interesting aspects, I think, this could be applied to. But the number one thing is being able to improve the lives of people who have these that have these various issues or diseases.
Very cool. What else? What else we got? Who wants to jump in? I don't know, Beth, have you even had a chance to share any of your specific stories at this point? I know you've come in on the other ones, but
My story was a little bit about McDonald's just because it's a very interesting, like big McDonald's is everywhere, and they're using AI to um, to help their supply chain, to help kind of rush times so that it's more helpful for the employees and for the customers. It's basically a data story, right? Like a real-time data processing story, also analysis after the fact. And one of the things that was interesting about it was it's another piece in our experience moving through a world that wants us to buy things in personalization. So, using things that, like, analyze that the last time, the first time the weather hit 73 degrees, don't know what it is in Celsius, you guys gotta do that yourself, but 73 degrees in the US, after winter, that a bunch of people go and buy, like, frozen shakes or something like
Mhm.
that. So, one of the examples for this was so when that happens in the external environment wherever you are, when that happens, and you were one of those people, you get a coupon that says, "Hey, did you know, this is a discount for you," kind of thing. And so I think it's big because of McDonald's. It's lovely because it's data, but it's also another piece in our continued path going through a world that is customized for us that I think we are likely to assume everybody else is experiencing the same, and they're not. Like, this is sorry if you can hear that. Um, good. This is what it was like, when Google started to personalize those researches for you, right? So, like, "No, no, no, I'm on the top of the Google 10. Well, you're not for me because I see what I see." Or
Right.
but Google something. I think we're gonna continue increasingly to have that experience all over the place.
100% agree. I think I mean, aren't we really close to highly personalized coupons? And I think just-in-time coupons too, Beth. I'm not saying this is part of what McDonald's is doing, because a lot of what they were talking about was like almost like a smart kitchen is the way I kind of read it, which is super cool, by the way. I think that's an awesome way to enhance and get orders out faster and probably reduce waste and all sorts of amazing things within McDonald's. But I really think about this yesterday. We were kind of talking about this. I mean, we really are moving quickly to a world where you have a personalized coupon that not even necessarily because it's geolocated, although that could be part of it, but somehow it's using AI and it's enabling me in the next maybe hour I get delivered a coupon and it's like, it's literally good for just me for just an hour for maybe 3 things on the menu that it knows that I bought the last time I was at that particular restaurant. Like, I don't know. I'm not even against that, honestly. I'm not like, "Oh my god, they'll know everything." I mean, I think that's sort of a interesting use case. Obviously, there's data and privacy and all the things, but, if you're signing up for apps, you're basically in a lot of ways with the food apps waiving some of your rights towards the privacy and data that they collect in terms of like past food orders and things. So they already have that data if you're already trading that for the typical coupons and it's your birthday, get 20% off or something like that are already part of that. So anyway,
Right.
be interesting to find out what they do.
Absolutely, and can you imagine the experience of driving down the road, having, the message come up saying, "Hey, you're at a quarter tank of gas, there's a gas station coming right up, and there's a McDonald's right after it. So, you this is the well, you can go to the gas station, then here's the coupon because we know you're right near. Go do that, and then, like, and you still have time to get to the thing that we can see on your calendar."
I'll go one better than that, Beth. What if the billboards are basically new heads-up displays on the side of the road, and your billboards look different than everybody else's billboards while you're driving down the road?
or the billboard. So that is like now you're in my eyeballs or my glasses. But but that would be sort of funny. Like when you're I assume you guys have these too, when you're driving down a road that has the sensor that it's telling you what the speed you're driving, right? And the display changes. Now you're gonna be seeing everybody else's ads, right? Like we could see your car. You want to go shopping for clothes. Oh no, you have a kid. You're like you're getting
Yeah.
like the that would be funny.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. We probably got about 5 more minutes. So anybody else have any other news stories that they wanted to share? I'm good on my end, by the way.
And go ahead, Andy.
No, I think Junmi raised his hand first. Did you?
Okay, cool.
Thank
you. All right.
I'm going.
And so I got two that are interconnected, and this is for the creatives. Okay. So two stories that came out, and I think they may have a little more impact than the initialness of this. Number one, a company called or a new company called Wolf Games. Wolf, as in Dick Wolf and Elliot Wolf. So if Dick Wolf, you know from the creative side, all of the Law and Orders, that's the guy who made that show or those shows, right? So his son Elliot is starting up Wolf Games, and what they're going to do is they're building out AI to generate narratives or stories for continuous gameplay. And so their idea is they're going to come up with it's Law and Order, right? So it's essentially murder mysteries that the player will go through and solve. So the AI is going to go through and create new daily missions that are drawn on from major news sources and from various true crime dramas and those kinds of things, so that you will always have a new story or a new narrative to play through. And this is one of the earliest examples that we've really seen AI at the forefront in gaming. Now, this I think is going to build out into larger and further things that we've kind of hinted at in the future, things like generating your own content, personalized content for you on the fly. But this is one of those first steps in seeing how well this plays out. This goes to having, natural language and interactions with NPCs, creating additional storylines by every little action you take, creating a more developed simulated world and your own personalized story. This could revolutionize MMOs and all of those kinds of things, so that everybody gets essentially their own place in the larger world. Okay. I'll leave that there. Very exciting, not just for the gamers, but I think for storytellers in general. The other story is Sam Altman drops a little tidbit about saying they've developed a model that's really good at creative writing. Right? Not much more than that. Doesn't know when he's going to release it or they're going to release it or anything like that. But so already the responses have been like, "Oh no, what's this gonna mean for creative writing or writers and things like that?" But the way I wanna look at it and explore is this now a educated writer that I can bounce my ideas off of? Can I help develop my own stories? Like, part of the writing process for, like, novels and things like that is you want to do world development, character development, all of these things, but it's it can be a difficult process if you've just gotta sit there and explore and write out your outlines and things like that. But now do I have an AI that has enough of a knowledge base to know what I want from it from a creative writing standpoint? When we talk about a character and how it develops and what its arc's going to be and how that interacts with the larger environment. What if I wanna do world building like a city in a continent, in a world, in a universe, and build out from there and those kinds of things. What's the political structure of this mining town? As an example from from one of the more famous D&D DMs out there. But the point is, this is a more niche or specific trained model for this category, right? Here is creative writing. Here is another model I can plug in to my larger mixture of experts, right? Just like we were talking about making how Manus could be, as a wrapper with all the different tools. Yes, now it's a build your own agent, build your own system of experts so that you can plug in all the pieces that you want. And then, of course, you can go into fine tuning and making your own little version, or maybe evolution it like a Pokemon with Sakana's tech and things like that. But before I go too crazy on it, I'll leave it there. But I think those two stories on the creative side is a opening or door that can lead our pattern recognition brains down, seeing all the elements.
Go ahead, Carl.
I think you know what? I'll probably save mine for something else because it's pretty comprehensive and we don't have time to actually go through the conversations about what I wanted to do that. So maybe it's probably for another show then.
All right. I'll do a very quick one to close out. So Ilya Sutskever, a name that's very important, one of the sort of people who was at the table with Google DeepMind and Jeffrey Hinton and the others who made the initial breakthrough advances in how to create artificial intelligence, the kind that we're experiencing now. He's been central to the major breakthroughs in deep learning and scaling the capabilities. Now, historically, we've always done this scaling or thought about scaling as, putting more data, more parameters in the model, and giving it more compute time to actually do the pre-training and get to a higher level of comprehension in knowledge and reasoning. But there are other ways that have been demonstrated that you can scale intelligence. And so Ilya has this startup called Safe Superintelligence. He's not talking about artificial general intelligence, AGI. Superintelligence is a lot beyond that. And so he's pursuing that with his funding. So the news is they raised another $2 billion. But the important metric is what was the valuation at which that was raised. And it was 5 times the valuation of their previous raise. And they've only been around a short while. As you know, he left OpenAI as one of the co-founders of OpenAI. And then he was kind of in silence for a while and then came out with Safe Superintelligence. Okay, so here's just a little quote to close out from Ilya, major mind in AI. He says, "I've found a new mountain to climb. Everyone just says scaling hypothesis, but scaling what?" And so he's teasing this idea that he's scaling intelligence, but not by brute force compute application. So let's leave it with that.
It's a great place to leave it off with. Okay, so we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for everybody hanging out. We appreciate you. Hopefully you learned something. I know I always do when I listen to these news stories, and hopefully it wasn't the ones that are just catching the major headlines over the last week. So we'll be back every Wednesday doing this. Of course, you can catch us the rest of this week as well. Tomorrow, like I said, we are going to be talking about our AI agents, the ultimate threat to SaaS. That's going to be a really good conversation. Also, as I hinted, we have our first guest co-host. I have to make sure I say all of those words. And then on Friday, like I said, it's our Be About It show, which is really to say, in fact, I just was working on this. Stop talking, start doing real world AI solutions that save time and money. We're not just going to talk about it. We're going to walk the walk. We're going to show you what we're doing. We all have examples. We talked about it last night on our weekly meeting about the show, and we're excited to bring all of those examples to you guys on Friday. And again, this is just not pie in the sky stuff. These are actual deployable AI solutions that we are currently using across our group, and we want to share them with you guys. So like we said, we can show you where AI is making a huge impact on lots of people and lots of companies' lives. So that's coming up on Friday. Be sure to hang out with us the rest of the week. Like I said, you can go over to the website if you want to sign up for the Daily AI Show newsletter. So that's the dailyaishow.com. Really appreciate that. That goes out every Sunday morning. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with our surprise guest co-host. So come back to find out who it's going to be. We will see you again tomorrow, guys. Bye.
Aloha.